The title of this video is not a joke. It's a topic the patrons picked on Patreon, and when they did, I was unsure what to do with it. They asked, why did Richard Hatch use his lack of clothing as a strategy? Why did he go full unwrapped burrito on everyone? And boy, what a wild question, because I never thought of it as strategy, but are the patrons onto something, or are they just on something? Was there strategy to this? Is it a good idea to try it? This is a weird thing to research, and what I found will likely offend a large part of those who watch this video as it gets really, really dark. So I am asking that we keep this topic respectful in the comments, and I will link every source I have down in the description below. Now on this journey, I would like to point out that we as humans are flawed, and I say this because our main source of information for this video is what many would call an unreliable narrator. He is charismatic, arrogant, and seems to be smart, but what he is saying is not always true, and that we need to keep in mind, as Richard Hatch played on the very first season of Survivor when nobody knew anything about the game or the show, and in episode 6, he decided to go unclothed, and it is portrayed in a negative light. His tribe finds it weird to be around, and he just loves it. On the Unforgettable Moments DVD about this season, a DVD that they put out after the season was done airing that has a ton of secret scenes and stuff you didn't see on the show, they actually uncensor his body. And yeah, I'm not going to show it uncensored. It makes it even weirder than it was on the show. If you want to see this, you can look it up yourself. So why did Rich do this? Well,
my being naked, I think, is a reaction to my having been very uncomfortable with my own body as a child. Those kind of superficial concerns that were constraining and affected my self-esteem as a child aren't present any longer, at least in the way that they were. And I think that's healthier. I think as a role model or an example to others in this environment where they may talk about me because I've been on television, I think the conversation is a good one to have around the idea of what it means to be naked. Never mind when you're on a deserted island camping, which is what we were doing, and everyone was naked. I hope people understand that the editing is such that in order to make this unscripted drama dramatic and interesting, they made the show, they edited the show in such a way that you dealt with my nudity and not others around me.
Really? Other players were doing this too. Now, I cannot find any evidence backing this up, but that doesn't mean it's untrue, but it does make me question if what he really means when he says others got unclothed as well is like they went skinny dipping or something, you know, for example, which to me is wildly different than sitting in camp next to others buck wild. He does this again in episode 9 to celebrate his birthday, and again the players are like, I'm not too sure how to feel about this. It makes me feel weird. So at Tribal Council, Rich says,
well, I just enjoy being nude. I'm on a deserted island in the middle of the South China Sea. I thought, what better place than to just hang out nude. But it did make a couple people uncomfortable, so I thought, why bother?
So hey, good for him. He realized it was weird for him to do around others and stopped doing it for the rest of the season. Problem solved, yes? No, you are nakedly mistaken. Do you want to tell me what videos I should make? The patrons on Patreon pick this video, and you can pick what I make too. You also get to watch everything up to 6 months early and join our Survivor Fantasy League. If you're interested, then there's a link in the description. Thank you for your support. Now at that. So Hatch wins that first season of Survivor and becomes famous, famously known as the gay man who went unclothed that won Survivor. Approximately 50+ million people tuned in to see the finale of season 1, where they saw him win, and Sue's Snakes and Rats speech about why Richard was the best candidate to win became pop culture. Did anyone else ever copy Rich's strategy though? Well, let's briefly jump ahead to season 30 of the show, where we saw 2 players channeling Rich's no clothing strategy to their own demise in the game, as literally everyone saw it as an awkward thing as well. The show made sure to portray this as weird and a bad thing, that ostracizes them to discourage this type of behavior from future players. So we go back to Rich, who has talked time and time again about his lack of clothes in the game, and I believe this one snippet from 2020 best sums it up.
Now, who am I? I'm this bold, kind of outspoken, gay, naked at the time guy, probably intentionally naked to keep people away from me or to give whatever level of discomfort might come from being around this fat naked guy. It's all part of the game for me. I was naked. I chose to be naked because I thought it would give me some kind of an advantage in the game. If I weren't allowed to be naked, I wouldn't have been naked.
That is what I mean when I say he is an unreliable narrator. I don't buy for a second it was strategy. He wanted to be unclothed, found it humorous to make others feel awkward, and in a way, pushed his own agenda by doing this for shock value. He wants others to live like this and thinks him doing it will encourage them to do so as well. So, was it strategy? In my opinion, I'm pressing X to doubt, but hey, he was famous for it. So of course, the show asked him back for their big all-star returnee season where Richard purposefully wears a kilt, knowing it will be the easiest thing to rip off whenever you want to roam free, if you know what I mean. I also must mention that him and Sue, the lady who gave the infamous snakes and rats speech, is basically Rich's frenemy. As she describes them, she says, "We're like a brother and sister who love to poke fun at each other." So on All Stars, Richard takes this being unclothed thing that got him famous to another level, as instead of 2 isolated incidents like it was in season 1, it is now happening all the time. It happens at challenges where Jeff openly supports it with his enthusiasm. It's while he's fishing, and of course, while just sitting around camp, which is the weirdest one. Now heads up, we are entering the darkest part of the video. Turn back now if seeing someone be traumatized by Rich's lack of clothing could be a trigger for you. So in episode 5 of All Stars, there is a challenge on balance beams. It has many paths and is only railroaded in the middle when people face off to fight. After Rich's first fight, he gets wet, so he does what he always does and strips. One could say it is strategy so no one else would fight him, and I could see that. And another would say it's just because he felt like it, and also I could see that. So what I'm about to show you is condensed for time and censored so YouTube lets this video stay online, but feel free to look up episode 5 of season 8 if you want to see it uncut.
Come on, Sue. Nicely done. You got it,
Sue,
Kat. You got it.
Get up there.
I want this one. I gotta take my time.
Want some?
Good job. Yeah,
Some,
right.
honey.
Go
ahead.
Come on.
You got it, Kat.
Come on, Kat.
Guys, come on. Nobody cares about that stuff.
This incident seems stupid and meaningless in the moment, but it quickly becomes a major event for the season, as when Sue gets back to camp, she says Rich was out of line for doing that, and she hopes the show talks to him, but otherwise, it's kind of brushed off. But then, 2 days later, after Rich is already voted out of the game, Sue is having a mental breakdown. She feels violated and assaulted by what Rich did. The show goes out of its way to show the players who disagree with her and think she is just doing this for a paycheck from the show. But not everyone thinks this, but the show definitely focuses on those who do. So when the next challenge happens, Jeff brings up what Rich did, and
Richard Hatch, sort of being inappropriate.
I was sexually violated. To have some guy come up, he passed a half a dozen people on platforms and never touched them. I was violated, humiliated, dehumanized, and totally spent, Jeff. It wasn't sorta, Jeff, because his back was to you, Jeff. That's all I'm saying, and I'm spent and I'm done with this game. There's no way I can continue with my emotions pushed to the ground that much.
that is from episode 6 of season 8. Again, I am cutting a lot out to make this condensed, but it is very uncomfortable to watch. While I don't have footage to show you of what I'm about to say, I did do extensive research and I'm basically summing up what I found. And what I found is that basically Sue got a lawyer. She then tried to sue CBS. They both settled out of court. Sue appears on CBS the day after this episode aired and says, "We worked out a deal, so it's all good." And then at the reunion show, after the season is done airing, she is surgically enhanced. Do with that information what you will. But what is Rich's thoughts on this? He stays quiet from what I can tell. I'm sure it's for legal reasons, but after the show casts its all-winter season and they cut Rich from it, 2 days before he's supposed to fly out to Fiji, Rich goes scorched earth on his YouTube channel. In fact, he starts one almost seemingly to go scorched earth in my opinion. He claims Sue is emotionally unstable, and what is his proof for this? Well, apparently he says the first time you might notice it is the infamous snakes and rats speech that she made to convince others to vote for Rich to win and not for Kelly. Huh. Interesting. He then claims that she had premeditated a plan to extort CBS before they even filmed All Stars. Remember, Rich is an unreliable narrator who was directly hurt by the show and what happened, so this is all very biased information, but he claims that him, CBS, Sue, and her lawyer watched all the uncut raw footage of the incident from every angle that was filmed, and he says in that footage, he never touched her. In fact, she stepped towards the exit and then chose to wait for him to come to her, knowing he is unclothed, which we do see on the show. Mind you, every path to where she needed to go was the same distance in terms of number of beams, so it seemed like going down the path Richard was going was not the best way. It was just one of 3 ways. Rich says if he was as bad as Survivor now claims he is, then why was he asked back for seasons 20 and 22, and then was praised by Jeff for years, even after All Stars, that he represented the show well? So is that last statement true? Well, I do have some proof about it. Here's Jeff doing an official CBS commentary for Survivor after All Stars had already been filmed.
Honestly, Rich, we did not know you were going to be such a good winner, such a good representative of the show, which you were incredible. If we had influence, Rudy would have won. There's no question you wouldn't have won. We thought you were this pompous, arrogant idiot.
He is. Let's get that straight. He is.
But I got to say, Hatch was a great representative for the show as a first winner.
Cool, I appreciate that.
So it's true. Even after the incident happened, even after they were done filming it, CBS had Rich do commentary on the Borneo DVD and had Jeff openly praising him. He even starred with Sue Hawk on Battle of the Network Reality Stars, a Bravo show which is owned by NBC, a different network admittedly, a year after All Stars. Survivor even brought Rich back for a gag during the season 26 reunion where he gets unclothed again, and that was 9 years after All Stars had happened. And as I mentioned before, he was going to be on Winners at War season 40, but then was cut 2 days before he was supposed to fly out to Fiji. Why? Well, on season 39, an incident happened where a guy was touching women in a way he wasn't supposed to, and he was kicked off the show. So Survivor changed their tune on Richard Hatch. But while I have summed up a lot of what Rich says while trying to balance his unreliable narrative with fact, here's what he says when defending his side of the story when it comes to Sue.
20 years later, people still talk about the snake and rat speech. That's Sue Hawk. But it's reflective of her emotional instability. And that's kind of a sad thing, I think. Between the end of the original Survivor that I won and the All Stars, Sue had expressed to many of us very, very clearly that she was angry she didn't win. She figured she couldn't win, and she was going to do what she was able to do to extort CBS. And she did it in her own unique way, with sincerity. You knew that this person, unstable as you might have perceived her to be, believed the things she was saying and had this as a goal, but you just take it with a grain of salt because it's Sue Hawk and you go on. Because I actually do believe, sadly, that the instability mentally that was happening there, for whatever reason, if she were somehow affected by anything I did, I would try not to do that. So, short answer, I don't think I could have done anything differently, but if I knew ahead of time that something I were doing would likely be harmful in some real meaningful way, I would likely not have done it.
So why was Richard Hatch going full unwrapped burrito on everyone? In my opinion, because he wanted to. There was no good strategic reason to do this, and while it made him famous for a time, it ultimately was his own undoing when it came to Survivor and the direction it ended up moving in the wake of the Dan Spilo incident on season 39. But what do you think? Comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. I'll see you all next time.